The Del Mar shop is open. Shop.drf.com. The daily racing form, past performances, clocker reports, DRF picks, and betting strategies will be available for you throughout the meet that starts on Saturday, July the 20th. We are here, me, Gino Bacola, and Barry Spears, to talk about the late pick 5 sequence from Del Mar. We're picking this sequence out because you have the 2 stakes races in it, and it's a good sequence of races. I will always recommend to look at the takeout, because I'm pretty sure the late pick 5s in SoCal aren't the low takeout ones like the early ones are, which is a bummer. So always try to find the best way you can play and get the most of your money back playing into the takeout wagers. But we'll go through the 5 races at Del Mar. And Barry, the one thing about Southern California racing over the last couple years, I'll give them credit. First off, things have been a lot safer. That's positive. Been a lot less, like, that's the most important thing. So in that aspect, they've done a really nice job. And while we don't have as many racing days or as many horses, and the horse supply isn't as big as it was, it seems like on the big days, the first days of the meet, some of the big Saturdays, that we're still getting really good big days in Southern California. And we're getting a good opening day card at Del Mar that you and I are going to dive into.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, how, at least for me, the Del Mar meet the past couple of years
It's been better.
is better than,
Saratoga.
Saratoga for sure.
They've had more luck too. And it's
Yeah.
nice because right off the bat, you just never have to worry about the rain.
Right. That's key. I remember one year though, I think it was
There was a
2012
couple. There were
or
rain
20
good amount of times.
14 in that range where it rained on opening day.
Yeah.
And the races were taken off the turf. It was crazy.
It's just so different. But I agree with you. They've had some good field sizes both of the last 2 years. And
That's the major attractor, at least for me, is
me too.
the field size.
I don't ever, and you're the same way. Like, I don't mind high level, low level surfaces, even synthetic turf, dirt.
Matter.
For me, big fields, competitive fields, I'm in. That's what I want. And if we can, that's where we can find some value. We can find some opportunities. Remember too, folks, all throughout the meet at Saratoga and Del Mar, clocker reports every day. So these are the tracks where you'll have a bunch of maiden special weight races, horses coming off of long layoffs. You need that extra help. Take advantage when DRF has some of those tools to help you succeed. They have the Caesars Sportsbook Oceanside $100,000 stakes race, which is a traditional opening day feature. Some years they even had 2 editions of the Oceanside on opening day when there would be so many horses that they would want to run in here. It's the first of a series of turf stakes races for 3-year-olds, and they could be flying early in this race.
That's what I'm hoping.
Right?
That's what it looks like.
Just going inside, outside. You have All That Glory, who's been able to show sprint speed, going shorter. Last time out, broke in at the start, bumped, and that may have just cost him a little bit as far as trying to get the lead. Formidable Man, he can sit off a little bit, and I think against this field, he might not be just as fast as some of the others, and that could possibly work to his benefit if he's just sitting off a little bit by default. The 3, King of Gosford, he's been really close to the lead going down the hill and sprinting, and we've actually never seen him go farther than 7 furlongs, so he's got to prove he can get a mile, and I don't know why I would expect him to be farther out of it early than he was going shorter. So he should be right up in the mix. Continuing through the field, Island Cruiser, he was on the lead last time out. Last time he was at a mile and he was sitting second going 6 furlongs. Now he stretches back out. We're in Trouble has 2 sprints. I think he can sit a little bit, but he's definitely been right there in both of his races, and it wouldn't be a shock at all to see him on the lead or pushing the pace. Scatify, his race is going long. He's been right on the lead and forwardly placed. And when he went 6 furlongs on the turf, the only reason why he wasn't closer early is because he had a bad start and he got forced in at the start. Otherwise, he would have been closer early on. The funniest thing, Charge for Gold is faster than all of the horses I just mentioned. He's actually been in front of all of these horses that I was just talking about. So they really could be flying in here.
Yeah, I hope so, because that sets it up for, a few horses in here, which makes this a little bit easier. I'm not really sure what their prices are going to be. But the first on my list is actually the outside horse Simplexity. I think that horse might be okay in a spot like this for Dan Blacker.
Just dropping back
Yep.
and
Just
making a late run.
and making a late run, and it kind of seems like that's what this horse likes to do. Finishes strong in the stretch, and I
Because
think
it's funny, this horse is 30-1, and they beat King of Gosford. And King of Gosford is 5-2.
right.
Right? It was
I
last
think
year.
That's got to be a misprint.
It was last year going, on the synthetic 7 furlongs. So it was a long time ago. But if this is a horse who just gets completely forgotten about, yeah, like really interesting, because the synthetic race is better than the turf form, but it's just tough to, like, I'm not ready to say this horse can't run on the grass or anything. And you're a first time gelding here. He's interesting. The one to me that like makes a lot of sense for the trip that we're talking about is the 4 guy named Joe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He just is the horse who is going to get the benefit if they go this fast. And like all of his form overall makes sense, in particular going a mile. This is a good trip. Look at the last time he went a mile in the Pasadena. He was second. It was a really good effort by a horse named Stay Hot. He wasn't far behind Endlessly, who was very good at that time before heading into the Kentucky Derby. And just overall, eliminate his dirt sprint. Everything else is good. Even the Transylvania race, he just had a tough trip that day. He had a bad start at Keeneland. He ends up dead last going into the turn. He was 11th of 12th. He settles about 6 lengths off, but he was buried on the inside behind horses. He had some run. He had some really nice late energy. He was kind of weaving through traffic. And look, he was 8th, but he was less than 3 lengths. He was right there, like a couple different moves, and he's much closer in that race and, maybe able to finish 3rd or 4th in that type of a situation. I think it's a great spot for him. You like the fact that Hernandez jumps aboard. So he's, to me, like a must-use pick 5 horse based on the trip.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be a cut above these. I mean,
class-wise too, I think.
Yeah, he definitely is going to have, or could have, a perfect trip kind of setup.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always others that can finish strong a certain day, especially with closers. They get stopped, things happen. And others could get through, and that one could slow up a bit. So they're not always, like sure shots, especially when they're closers like this.
I pointed out the 6 a little bit. Just watching his races, I think he's just a good horse who might have just been kind of aggressively handled in spots where they just were high on him. In particular, both of his races too, he drew down towards the inside. So I think it's one of those situations where you have a good start. What are you going to do? You want to grab a hold, take way back, and get shuffled back? No, you want to at least kind of go on with it and hold your position a little bit. So I wouldn't be. I think he's a nice horse. I really do, and he's, to me, one that I might throw in because I think he fits pretty well with this group class wise. Just, can he stretch out? Can he not get caught up in a pace battle here? Can he sit a little bit off? He's in the mix for me. Also, the 10 is another one for talking about the trip, because he actually won going wire to wire on the dirt. But in his last start on the dirt or on the turf last year, it was really nice coming from off the pace. And his 2 races that are just not good at all, he faced way better. Prince of Monaco and Muth in those spots. So if you eliminate those races, you just look at his grass race. And you look at Tim Yakteen. This was a cool stat that I had noticed. I hadn't realized this barn was this good off the extended layoff. And if you look over the last 5 years, they've won with 19%, so 10 out of 53 starters, and a $2.96 ROI, just with horses coming off the long layoff. You can even see some of the recent ones. They all seem to be running pretty well. Like, all seem to fire pretty good shots. So Maybe a horse like Rothschild can improve. We haven't seen this horse in 6-7 months now and could just be a little bit more mature. It's not an easy race because of the pace scenario. When that happens, things could go wild.
Yeah.
and because not all the horses we map out are going to go to the lead. So if a couple, one or two, decide to try to take back and maybe that works a little bit better for them, they become, it changes everything. But on paper, it does look like a race where they'll be moving. We both mentioned the 4, Joe, a little bit. I'm glad I got to point out the 10, Barry.
Kind of like the 7 a little bit, Blue Eyed George.
Yeah, George can sit a trip. Yeah, absolutely.
I was looking at the race and watched the American Turf, and that horse just didn't have a chance at all.
Yep.
But you could put a line straight through that
right
race. And even the one before that wasn't really a good run.
But the 2 at Turfway were solid. Both of those races back to back
were very, very
and then
solid.
Again in the cinema was fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that effort last time out at Santa Anita. Those, like if you're just looking at speed figures, he's pretty competitive with this group. And the problem, like I was saying, it's Forbiddable Man fits class-wise. That was a good effort in the American Turf. And when you're looking at Tricari, it's become really sharp. Tricari came back, was 3rd in the Penn Mile. It was only beaten a neck and then won the Belmont Derby. And in that race, Forbiddable Man beat Cugino, who came back to win the Audubon. He beat Legend of Time, who came back to win the Grade 2 Penn and Ridge. He beat Neat, who came back to win the Grade 3 Manila. So he finished in front of 3 next out stakes winners, a couple of them graded stakes winners, Formidable Man, and Blue Eyed George was in that race. That was a tough race. Loaded group. That American Turf, just really competitive. Like basically every horse in that field would have been a really competitive horse in the race that we're looking at in the Oceanside.
Yes, definitely.
So not an easy way to start. Some of the late exotics with the late pick 5 kicking off in race number 7, the Oceanside, 5-2 on King of Gosford. I actually wouldn't be shocked if he floated up a little bit, even though he's won 3 in a row. Like I don't know if there's going to be any one horse that's that short in here. I wouldn't be shocked if there were a few that took a little bit of money.
I think he's going to take a lot of money. He's going to take a lot of money.
Gosford, the one to beat. We'll see how short he gets. Forbiddable Man will be probably one of the top 3 betting choices in here. Let's move along to race number 8. Barry, we get to a maiden special weight. This one is for 3-year-olds going 6 furlongs. I don't practice Santorina. Oh no, it's Santeria, not Santorina. Sorry about that. But we got Santorina, who I think we should start with. He has never really run a bad race in his 4 starts. If you're just looking at speed figures, he's a horse who's going to be a short price. Him and Miramati are the 2 horses that are close to each other as the short prices on the morning line. So we can kind of talk about them and how, if or not, we're going to use them. But Santorina's 4 races debuts against a horse named Vlahos. That horse earns a 98 buyer winning that race, and then comes back and runs 3rd in the Pate Mile behind Seize the Gray. So solid horse. Ball Don't Lie is also in that race. And Promisio. What happens with Ball Don't Lie? Ball Don't Lie comes back and he actually beats Santorina in the next start, earns a 97 buyer, and then Ball Don't Lie goes and runs in the Las Barrera and finishes 2nd that day. Really solid effort. So those first 2 races that Santorina comes out of, very strong. Then in his 3rd start, April the 26th, finishes behind a horse named Parenting, who comes back for Baffert and wins the Affirmed. He's headed to the Jim Dandy, I think. He's headed out here. I'm pretty sure he's going to run in the Travers, but I'm not sure if they're going to get a prep before that. So he's going to be running in some of the big 3-year-old stakes races now. He's a nice horse, and it's really no shame in finishing behind that one. And then last time out, he runs into Eagles Flight, who is the Sib to Flightline. And Eagles Flight earns an 89 buyer speed figure in winning that race. So while I normally don't even start a conversation with a horse like this, because you look at him and go, oh, he's been a beaten favorite twice and he's finished 2nd 3 starts in a row, right? Is he one of those horses that just loves finishing 2nd? he has lost to some really nice horses in his last 3 races and in all 4 of his starts.
Yeah. I can see why somebody could like that horse in this spot, but it just doesn't sit well with me that this horse has run that many times and hasn't won. I know the competition in those races was tough, but I think this isn't short of that in this race either. And I'm not really fond of Miramati either.
I don't like, and let me say this. I love Frank.
Oh, that's the man.
Love to sit down and have some pizza. Love to chat some races with Frankie. He's a great storyteller. Love the human Frank Miramati.
Yes.
Not a big fan of the horse Miramati in this spot, personally.
No, but I do
at
think,
the price.
I think Baffert's holding all the cards here. His 3 horses between Miramati, NGA, and Dagger Ranch. I like the outside horse best. I think actually Mike Smith might have a pretty good day on Saturday. I going through the card.
He's got some live ones, and
what it'll be
interesting just around the country and actually around North America, because you have Monmouth has a big day. Saratoga also has a couple big races, and it's Saratoga. Yep. And then even Woodbine has the Woodbine Oaks, the plate trial. So there may be some jockeys that are normally certain places that are not. And between Del Mar, Woodbine, Monmouth, Saratoga, there will be big races all over the place, and maybe some jocks getting mounts on some horses they wouldn't normally be.
Yeah. And that opens things up. And I mean, I'd take Mike Smith off the bench any day.
Can you be bred better than this horse is, the 9?
Man, he's just this horse. I mean, the thing that got me onto this horse was the workout pattern.
Yeah.
8 to 10 days, steady, and getting faster. I just, with that pedigree and everything else, I like this horse quite a bit in this spot.
So he's a 3-year-old now. He's a son of Curlin. We know Curlin could get the classic distances, and his dam, Indian Blessing, she was really fast. Monster. And she was really precocious. She won the first 5 starts of her career, including the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She was a multiple Grade 1 winner. And then once she had to go a little bit farther, once she was in like the Fairground Oaks, it's a little too far for her in some of those spots. They cut her back to sprinting, and then we see her, in the test and winning the Gallant Bloom. She's a runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and in the Dubai Golden Shaheen also. Just very, very talented. And she's actually produced some nice horses as well. Mm-hmm. This horse, 10 Blessings, was really sneaky good. He just had some problems staying on track. He couldn't put a bunch of races together. If you ever just are bored, go back and watch his debut race, February 6th, 2016. That was one of the more visually impressive debut races for a horse I've ever seen. And it was just one that you go, oh my gosh, this is going to be a really nice horse. And it was at the time in February, and I was like, can this horse get into a stakes race next and get some Derby points? Like, oh my God, and then he was just off till September, and he shows back up, and it takes him a few starts to kind of get back into form.
Revved up.
And then he throws in a monster race, and he actually has a really good effort in the Malibu behind Mind Your Biscuits and Sharp Azteca. And you could see this horse had a bunch of ability. It was physical issues, just not being able to string them together. Life's Blessings was another horse who from the beginning was good. These horses were good from the beginning. They were precocious. So was their dam. So right out of the box, they're winning their first starts, or they're like competitive in their first few. Curlin Blessing is another multiple winner. Halos in Heaven, second in the first 2 starts at Del Mar, then wins. And then you have Dagger Ranch, who that effort was not bad in the debut.
No, either. Really, it's a lot better than it looks. And the horse that won that race was pretty good too.
Mission Beach. You have 5 siblings to race. All of them are winners, 4 multiple winners, 2 won their debut. Dam won the first 5 starts. You have a horse who has a nice kind of steady tab coming into this, where you're looking at the pattern, as you were pointing out. We don't see anything from like May 12th here, and then it's just clockwork. Like May 12th to May 22nd, and then we're just picking up 7 days.
Boom, boom, boom,
29th, June 6th, June 13th, June 20th, June 28th, July 4th, July 12th to get you set up perfectly for this. Horse gets Lasix for the first time. I actually like the draw to the outside. I had this race 5-6-9 because I thought of the horses to beat. I preferred Santorina just because of the company that I was going through. I thought the 9's the horse to bet, Dagger Ranch for sure. And then of the firsters, I thought the 5,
I like Wayne the Brain.
I thought the 5 was a little bit interesting. Glad's just been really good the last couple of years overall. He's just picked his game up so much. This horse's Dam was a 4-time winner. She did most of her work on the grass, but most of her races overall were on the grass. And she was solid, like a nice allowance type horse. And she's produced 4 winning siblings out of 8 horses to race. So the Dam was a solid one. The siblings, there are 4 of them that are winners. The work tab is solid for Wayne the Brain. The July 15th work from the gate is on XB TV. I thought it was solid. And again, when you're looking at patterns, this is another one where you go through the work pattern. We can go all the way back to April 27th, May 3rd, May 10th, May 17th, May 24th, May 31st, June 7th, June 14th, June 23rd, June 30th, July 7th, July 15th, nothing missing. There was one work that was maybe 3 days late, and that probably was because of like weather or something like that. So I think this horse should be really fit coming in. And as we pointed out, I prefer Santorina more than you do, but neither one of us think that the 2 horses that are going to be short prices are really scary in here.
Yeah, they're not overwhelming anybody. This is going to be a good betting race.
Yeah. Race number 8, maiden special 8s. That kicks off your late pick 4 on opening day at Del Mar. Let's move to the grade 2 San Clemente. This will go as race number 9 on Saturday on opening day. Want to also remind all of you out there before we get into this 9th race, with Del Mar starting up, ExpressBet has a bunch of contests now, like every single day. Every week they will have these Fun in the Sun tournaments, which are like, they're an absolute blast. So they're weekly. Each week it's a $25 entry fee and an additional $100 bankroll. You can play right through your account. It's the final 5 races at Saratoga and the first 5 races at Del Mar. So it's a blast. You're playing like the late pick 5 and then the early pick 5. You have $10 win bets, 10 of them. Those are the tournament races. So those are your 10 races to bet. And what it'll do is each week, a few people qualify, and then there's the final table on Monday, September the 2nd. So you try to qualify each week, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot, and the money is right in your account. So if you win your bets, you keep your cash. It's right there as part of your bankroll. Most of you are going to be looking and playing at these races anyways. You're playing the last 5 for Saratoga. Just take a look over at ExpressBet and check out some of the really good contests they have now. There's a big tournament for Haskell Day coming up this weekend at Monmouth, and then there's a bunch of the $40 feeders that you and I love because they can get us into a $300 contest and then into like a $5,000 contest for just $40. Like that's the way for some of us who don't play bigger tickets. A lot of options for you over at ExpressBet. Check them all out. 9th race, Barry, the San Clemente grade 2. We have 3-year-old fillies going a mile on the turf course here. From a starting point, we can talk about a couple of undefeated horses. First up, the number 10, Maduro. She is 4 for 4. And what is pretty nice, if you look at her last 3 races, she has won them a little differently. She sat really close last time out, but she has no problem coming from well off of it if she has to. She's just a horse who's gotten the job done. And on speed figures, she's been really consistent 3 in a row. She hasn't stepped up, but she's no doubt towards the top of the group with speed figures and with class. And then you have a horse who's been really good a little bit shorter. Ice Cream, you scream. We all scream for some ice cream. This gal will go second start as a 3-year-old, second start off the bench. She just has to prove that she can go a mile, whereas we've seen Maduro go a mile. Those are the top 2 from the wagering odds. But races like this, many directions to go because how the pace shapes up will be really key. You have a horse like Sea Dancer who can show speed. Rascality wouldn't be shocking stretching out from sprints. Invincible Molly stretching out from a sprint. We think Ice Cream You Scream could be close. Antifona's been sprinting as of late. Omaha Girl, I think they'll probably try to get a little aggressive if possible. Zona Verde can show speed if she wants, and Alluring draws the outside. She's only been sprinting. She's kind of forced to at least try to get some position. So a lot of these horses could be. I don't know how many of them are sure they have to. I thought the pace was kind of an enigma here in the San Clemente. So talk to us about some of the horses who you would want in a pick 5.
A little bit of a tough read here, like you said, with the pace scenario. But in the end, doesn't look like too many surprises here.
I don't think so either. I think this is a pretty formful race. I think she's a nice filly.
Yeah, Maduro's very nice, and Ice Cream You Scream is on the verge of being pretty good too. Yep. I will give a shout to Sea Dancer. I like that last race in the Honeymoon. Going to the lead, probably needed that effort on the cutback, which seems really, really logical in this spot. And then again, there's our guy Mike Smith on a what I think might be a live horse in this race.
Because what I really do like as well is that she showed us she can sit off. Like 2 starts back when the circumstances were a little bit different. Someone went quick. She was fine sitting a couple lengths off and moving early to the lead, but she's drawn down to the inside. I would expect that she'll be forwardly placed in here again, but she has options. I have no problem using her as some of the unders. And the other one for me that I looked at was just the 9, only because of her versatility. Eliminate her last race in the Angel Flight. She just didn't fire that day. They gave her a couple months off to freshen her back up. Her races 4 starts in a row were really good. She wins the Jimmy Durante. Then she has brutal trips in the Blue Norther and the Sweet Life back-to-back times, just no shot. And then on March the 10th, she was just second best. Medoro was just better than her that day. Like, no shame in being second to Medoro. And if this is I'm looking at her, and if she is like 8-1, 9-1, and she gets a little forgotten about in here, she may not be because of the connections with Hernandez and D'Amato. So that could be a negative. Right. But if she is in that value range, like if Medoro gets in some trouble, sure, she could win. Like, I don't think she's better than Medoro, but in a big field like this, could she be the third horse if one of those two don't fire? I like her versatility a little bit. I wouldn't have a problem doing a chalky single here. I'm not really a fan of that. But if you like the 10, or you thought the 10 and the 6 were live, this might be a race to shorten up, because you have to do that at some point somewhere. And I do feel a lot safer about these 2 short price horses than I think a lot of the ones we've talked about in the previous 2 races.
Yeah, definitely. Maduro more so than Ice Cream.
I agree.
Scream, just because of the
distance.
The distance factor. There's some things
and the pace.
Yeah, there's some questions with Ice Cream You Scream. Although that last race it was pretty tough. I mean, it's hard to dispute that. So
it's really good. Visually excellent. And from a pedigree standpoint, the Dam was a grade 3 winner going long on the turf, and had 4 wins going long.
Yeah, so, I don't think
pedigree wise, she should be fine. I think more than going long, it could be, does she get caught up in a pace battle stretching out, never having been the mile yet, and just coming out of some faster races? Is she in between some other speeds? They go a little too fast early, and you have a horse like Medoro who's cutting back from a mile in an 1/8, could have a little bit of bottom there. And that was kind of a tricky race, that April 20th race. Don't be discouraged because it was a slow pace, and the horse out front, Shiloh's Mistress, started to get a little bit brave, and she was battling back on the inside. And the 3rd place finisher that day, Circle of Trust, came back to win the Honeymoon and earn an 84 Beyer speed figure in doing so. So I think that race may be a little stronger than if you just look at first glance and think that the 1-5 favorite should have won by more than that. She feels like she's in a really good spot here, and she's the one they'll all have to beat.
Yes, absolutely.
That's Medoro in the feature race on Saturday at Del Mar. That's the grade 2 San Clemente, one of 2 stakes races on the opening day card. Barry and I will continue along to race number 10. This one is a 6.5 furlong sprint for 3-year-olds and up. It's a first level allowance race. And going through some of the top contenders in here, you have Thornhouse, who's a nice Calbred. He has not done a whole lot wrong in his career. He's been on the turf recently, but he had good dirt form early on. He has some speed, but he can sit off the pace. Pretty versatile, and he's going to go second start off a long layoff. You have the number 6 Money Run, who's really quick. There are a couple other speeds in here, but he's at least going to be a pace factor, and he'll come into the Peter Miller barn, who's had some very good Del Mar meets through the years. The number 1, he might be the best horse in this race, and he might be the horse who has the highest upside, or if he can ever put it all together, maybe the highest ceiling. We can see I think he's just a tricky horse to figure out and to ride. And these in between distances are actually kind of good for horses like this a lot of the time, like 6.5 and 7 furlongs, because it just sort of gives him an opportunity to sit back and then kind of come rolling at a distance that others have a tough time getting and aren't fit at. But he needs a little help up front. I've chased him a few times, and he's a horse that can be frustrating. I do think the spot for him could be really intriguing if the pace is quick enough. So those are at least some of the horses that'll take money to start. Who are horses that you want to talk about here?
Yeah, I think everything kind of goes through Thornhouse here.
I agree.
I like that race on May 27th off the bench. That was a really good race to set up for this one. That horse is just so versatile at this level that I don't think any of these horses can hang with him. That being said, I think there are some iterations of this race where Navy Man gets a good trip.
Yep.
And scores, because this horse has some races to go to back last year, especially around this time of year. July 3rd, that horse ran a real bang up race at Losal, and then before that was in a ungraded stake and finished second to One in Vermilion, who's a really good horse.
And when you see horses go off form a little bit and then get the gelding,
it looked like this horse was hurt. If you look at the line, the horse comes back at Del Mar in September. And
slow
just
start,
didn't fire at all.
And in a good race. Venkman's a nice horse too. And
yeah, I mean, that was a tough race to begin with.
But he just didn't run at all, right? It wasn't like you were not really using it as much of a gauge. I agree with you. I would not be shocked at all to see him run back well again. Hernandez jumps aboard. He gets the ultimate equipment change. These are the types of horses who could be fresh off the bench, ready to fire a big one. In
a winnable spot too, because
there's just no monsters in here. Like I said,
because there's a possibility that Thornhouse could, run somewhat worse than he did the first time off the bench. In a year,
he could regress a little bit.
Right, and that could be the opportunity that Navy Man or somebody else could need. But I didn't really see too many other horses that could run as fast.
That's what's hard, is that I'm trying to figure out who was like I'm going to throw the one in just because if there are some versions of this race where if a couple of these horses go,
the 2 outside horses, if they hook up, and that's very possible in this spot, and then you add, Thornhouse in that,
and maybe Navy Man even, if like they want to go a little quicker, like then all of a sudden. So I do want to have some tickets with the 1 Yellow Brick. The horse who I think's a little bit interesting for me at a price would be the 5, Mr. Iceman, that I could get to, because he's another one who looked like he was really heading in the right direction last year. Those back-to-back races at Oaklawn are pretty good. And they're actually against pretty tough company. And then he's off for a few months. He shows back up in April. And the race against Edge to Edge and Gun Pilot, they're a lot tougher than this group here. Again, he has 3 races in a row that are probably against tougher company, and they're a little disappointing. I mean, he was favored last time out, and I thought the race was one that if you just look at the running line, you probably wouldn't like it. I don't know if he ever really got a shot to run here. So he's the number 2. And he has a fine start. He's right with the leaders, but what's he supposed to do? Is he going to shove to the inside of 4 horses to his outside and be caught in between the 1 and the 3? So he actually, instead of being right up there with the leading group, look, he goes all the way to the back and then he gets shuffled. He just never really had a chance here. I'm not saying
the way I interpret that is the horse has lost.
It's not Yeah, and maybe they didn't want to shove him through there,
Right.
and that absolutely could have been the case. I do like the fact that now he's drawn more to the outside. So with a good start, he can just sit a little bit better here and not necessarily have to worry about kind of getting shuffled back, looking around. I don't think he got much of an opportunity. I'm not saying it was like overwhelming trouble or
No, no,
anything, but like,
you can see he was, the Jock was really wrapped up to him until the top of the stretch,
and even
and then
here he's trying.
he's
He
trying.
tries
He's
to come back
definitely trying,
inside,
but
so there's something here with him. And that those races from Oaklawn are the ones last year that get me there. And maybe with Raylu, get a little aggressive with him, who's going to be aboard. He's coming out to ride this meet, Raylu Gutierrez. So,
well, that's why I think the horse is cooked.
oh yeah,
Personally, because he's got no style in this race. You got the two outside horses, Trance and Gypsy Tears, that are probably going to link up. Money Run and
yeah,
Gypsy and
yep,
Trance on the outside.
yeah. They got to go
You
both, right?
know, and Mr. Iceman isn't as good of a closer as the others.
So for
I
him,
wouldn't.
it
Right.
would
So
have to
he's
be the
kind of
kind of
in
Navy
between.
man trip that we're talking about. Like it would have
Right.
to be that perfect fall into it trip. He had that one time, but like we said, if he's not, the price will at least be okay for me to include him because, like we said, he's one of those horses. If the trip that he got happens again, he's not going to be able to overcome it.
Right.
He just has to be in the right spot and fall into it. I think he's good enough, but as you pointed out,
On his best day, sure,
yeah,
he's definitely good enough, but
the
I just don't like the
style,
spiral. He's
the
doing the
trip,
spiral.
I know,
I
and
mean, he was all the way up 62,000, then went to an ungraded stake, and then down to 75, down to 50, down to 40. I don't know, and he hasn't been running well. I mean, he had a 75 buyer last time. That's, in his last like 10 to 12 races, that's his worst one. I mean, he sure can bounce back, and sure people had confidence in him last time, which was crazy to me. But I can see, him coming back off of this fourth time off the layoff. He's probably going to be a lot more fitter than he had been. Like you said, he has to fall into a trip here
yeah,
because he just has no real definitive style. I mean, he can be on the lead, but does he really want to be in this race? And is he faster than the horses that are going to be closing? I don't know.
he's one of those
It's a tough
horses.
read.
Yeah, no, he's a really tough read. He's one of those horses who, like, I want to make as much of a case for him as I can, but I have a hard time. Even the race that we
Right.
watched, right? Like I can see it was like, oh, like you said, maybe he's lost a step where he just can't hit that spot. Maybe Hernandez was like, what do I do? Okay, I guess I'll take back and see. And he didn't really know what type of horse, if the horse could
Right.
come on again, or
Yeah, because he's ridden him before, and he kind of got him involved on the turf, but that was a different kind of race,
yeah. So tough read, one that when I'm looking for some prices, I couldn't really get to some of the other bigger prices. So maybe that was why I was trying to talk myself into him. You pointed out the 8 and the 6 both should be on the lead, no doubt. I couldn't really get to the 7. Just need to see a little bit more from this horse recently. And yeah, we hit most of them here in race number 10 at Del Mar as we move to the finale. Barry, let's close things out, my friend. It's race number 11, maiden special weights. These are 3-year-olds going a mile on the turf course. Take it away. Who is on your radar? You and I are going to play a pick 5. We're going to be 4 for 4 closing. Who are a couple of the horses that you want on our tickets when we're in this last leg?
There was only 2, and honestly, there really is only one for me, and it's Middleburg. I bet this horse the last time at 9-1 on June 1st at Santa Anita, first time turf, and the horse struck the lead and just got swallowed up late by a couple of others. I was waiting for this horse to come back. I mean, I gather he's not going to be the greatest of prices, but I do like him a lot in this spot. The other horse that I think has a kind of a chance here, that didn't run that great first time out, but probably sets up better here, would be Joyrider. The Kitten's Joy horse with Mandella got out a little bit slow, slow, it says in the form. And I think this horse has a move up. I mean, Bobby's Kingdom
Completely agree.
obviously in the jump start, and I just think this horse has a good shot to run big in this spot.
I had 3 horses. You mentioned 2 of them as my top 3. So we may be in unison in this race. Joyrider was the real price, who I just felt like that was get a race under you to come and stretch out for bigger money at Del Mar. You know, like you get that race there to get some of the rust out of the way. That way you can stretch out, have a little bit more foundation. This horse's Dam didn't try the turf, but was nice. She was 3 for 3 jump up. And I think this is Amy's Challenge tried the turf only once, but Amy's Challenge was a nice horse, a legitimate, like graded stakes caliber horse. And we didn't just see a whole lot of other turf from the direct siblings, but I've got a big feeling we're going to see an improved effort from Joyrider. And as you were pointing out, we think Mike Smith could have a really good day, and he's on some very live horses. The other one for me was the 8, Rostovsky, who I think they kind of got away with one by getting this horse in for 50 in the debut, because he ran really well that day, and the race came back live. Uncle Reg came back to win next time out. And then last time he was in the race with the horse that you like, Middleburg, and he wasn't beaten a whole heck of a lot that day. He actually was a step slow. He was really, I just want to show it because Middleburg's in there too, so we can see the both of them. But Rostovsky's the 9, and both turns he didn't take well. And to me, that can be concerning once you've seen a horse do that a few times. But if that happens like once or twice, I actually think that that's kind of sneaky. Curve. Well, because if they learn and step forward, there's some efficiency that they may be able to have if they can just corner well. So watch the 9 here going into the first turn. He just kind of doesn't really take it well. He gets kind of pushed out, and even it just sort of takes a while to kind of round back into his position. And the same thing happens like a little later in the stretch. The horse Barry likes, the 6 Middleburg. He's the gray, who's sitting down towards the inside, 3rd right now. So getting a nice trip, and he's going to just move into a quick pace. And the 9 horse that I'm pointing out towards the back is a little bit wide. He does sort of the same thing. He just doesn't corner great when he's on the turn here, but then he actually makes up some ground. Here's your 6 Barry making a nice move. And this was the first time on the turf, like this exact same effort with the blinkers coming off, with him to relax a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like
right here, I thought I was going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And
right here, I thought I was going to win.
Yeah. He ran really well. It was at 9-1. And then here comes the 9, running onto the scene late. So
that's a good effort.
Yeah. That was, and he kind of ducks down. You could see he's green because the way he took the turns, and then he kind of shifts back down to the inside. Like they're still figuring him out a little bit. So,
but the reason I eliminated that horse were
no early speed.
The start.
Yeah. And and that's happened twice so far. And that's not, you don't like to see that. So, he'll at least offer us a little bit of value here, but we both agree that Middleburg looks like the one to beat. Another fun one could be Joyrider to include in some of your late exotics. I'll also throw in Rostovsky, a horse just that's a big price that may be a fun bottom of exotics horse. The number 5 is bred for the grass. This horse's Dam won her first 2 starts going 1.25 miles and 1 mile and 5/8 on the turf. So when you think about long on the turf, this should definitely be right up the alley of the 5. And this is a horse that's also a direct sibling to Astronaut. So this is a half sib to Astronaut here, who was a multiple graded stakes winner, won the Red Smith, won the Del Mar handicap, had some good success over the Del Mar turf course here. So there's a little bit of class and definitely some long on the turf in the pedigree for the 5. If you're just looking for a fun long shot, if this is like the get out race for you and you're playing some crazy tries, throw this horse in particular, because the barn is not a barn that cranks them first time out either. They're a really patient barn. You can see they're very good with their second time starters. In fact, over the last 5 years, 14 for 58 with second timers, 24% with a $2.86 ROI. So, and also he comes out of the Eagles flight race. That was a strong race with the Flightline runner. Yes, I didn't like looks like there's a missing work from July 1st to July 14th. So there may have been something right there that should have been on July the 7th. Not a positive, but we're not talking about a short price horse. So those things they bother me a lot less with the horse who's going to be 25 to 1.
Correct.
Than with the horse
you can overlook some things.
Yeah.
For some upside with a long shot like that.
Especially a bottom of exotics type long shot. If we like horses like Middleburg and you want to play a ticket where you put Middleburg on top and you're looking for some big bombers underneath, this would be a fun one to throw in along with the 3 who we mentioned, and a strong opening day card at Del Mar where the turf meets the surf. Opening day is on Saturday. Saturday is going to be an awesome day. We have Saratoga. We have Monmouth Park with the Haskell.
Different tracks. That's the key.
Yeah.
All over the country, too.
Del Mar, and then even a Woodbine, as I pointed out, they have a fun sequence of 4 stakes races with the Woodbine Oaks and the King's Plate trial to see who can get into the King's Plate next month. Really big Saturday, a busy Saturday all over the place. If you need any additional help, Barry and I took a look at the late pick 5 from Saratoga on for Saturday, and you can check that out on That's What G Said podcast or on the YouTube channel. If you look at That's What G Said podcast on YouTube. So if you're watching us there, make sure you subscribe to the channel so all the videos and everything will be delivered to you and you'll be notified as soon as they're ready. And we'll have a lot for Del Mar and for Saratoga in the coming weeks. This is a fun time. We had a few sort of calm weeks after the Belmont at Saratoga and after the Triple Crown races. And now we're going to be ramping up, man, for the next 6 weeks or so. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, this is what we live for. Days like Saturday where, there's all kinds of action. If you can't make money on Saturday, man, got to come back the next Saturday.
Exactly. You got to come back the next one. And we'll do our best to try to lead you in the right direction. Thanks again so much, all of you. And we always would like to hear from you. If you ever have any questions about stuff that we mentioned, if you ever have any comments or you like a horse that we didn't talk about or you want to point something out to us, post on the chat in the YouTube. If you post the comments, I'll get those alerts. And I always will try to come back and respond to anyone who says anything positive or negative. If it's negative, I'm going to come in there and try to talk smack to you back and forth. So we'll get into it in a good way, but I'll try to tell you why whatever you said about us is wrong, because there's never anything bad that you could say about Barry or myself, right? Nothing. Never. My friend, let's crush it this week. You have a good one. We'll be playing the races from Saratoga and from Del Mar on Saturday. Don't forget, everybody, that Del Mar shop is now open and available for you. Shop.drf.com. Everything you need to succeed every racing day at Del Mar. We'll be back next week with more Del Mar, with more Saratoga, and with all of the thoughts to try to lead you in the right direction.